Welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the stories, experience, and defining moments that shape who we have become. Today's guest is Harriet Bratt, an international speaker, leadership speaking mentors, and founders of Warriors Rising. Harriet is passionate about helping entrepreneurs and leaders step into their powers, their voice, move from simply speaking to truly making an impact. It's really a pleasure and honor to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you and your listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much. Harriet, what were some of the challenges or experience that shape you into who you have become today?
I love this question, hence wanting to be in your podcast and the nature of what you're doing. So I,
Thank you.
I honor you bringing this content. And I think, like many, there's going to be a lot of experiences, right?
Yeah.
A lot of different challenges that we go through. But I think when you said the core, for me, the core challenge that shaped both who I am, but also led to what I do was at the age of about 7 or 8, just 7.5, but going into 8, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And it was not the diagnosis. I actually do believe it's a superpower. I didn't then,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a diagnosis. It was how people dealt with that. I was suddenly constantly being told, sit down, be quiet, you can't concentrate, you can't focus. All of these things, which I'm sure many of your listeners will be able to
Yeah.
relate to. And then not too long after that, I used to say I was sent to boarding school because that's kind of how it felt, right? I had this diagnosis. I was the naughty child, the problem child, and then I was sent away. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it became a blessing. But at that time, I was victimized by my house mistress for having ADHD and for being the bold, radiant, expressionful child. And so that led to me having massive, massive self doubt, questioning who I am, questioning what I say, dimming myself to try and fit in rather than
Mm.
being myself and not needing that external validation. So that was kind of the core challenge that really led into all of this.
Wow, that was really a whole lot, especially being more like growing up. I mean, just imagine the experience, what it means. Like someone saying, "Keep quiet." You can't focus. You can't this and that. It's a lot, and a big part of your stories are involve overcoming bullying and negative message earlier in life. How did those experiences shape the person and leader you are today?
Well, I think, to give it the context at the beginning, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but there's a very common expression that says, "Sticks and stones will break my bones, but
Yeah.
words will never hurt me," right? And it took me a long time to get that because at first I was
Mm.
like, words do hurt. Right? I think for everybody and probably for yourself, Aro,
Yeah.
like we were told something by a member of authority. Maybe it was your
Yeah.
parents, maybe it was your teacher, maybe it was a doctor, but someone told you something and you believe it, right? I started to believe I'm not good enough. I started to believe I can't concentrate. I started to believe I can't focus and I misbehave and people are scared of me and all of these things. So for me, it was having to go through that self doubt, believing what people said, and then putting myself into an environment where I saw that was actually just one opinion. And as Les Brown says, never let anybody's
Yeah.
opinion define your reality. So I really had to start shifting it. And for me personally, I went on my own journey of kind of, the modern way of saying it is like healing that part of me, understanding how powerful and how impactful your self talk is on
Mm.
how you show up every day. And as I stepped back into my power, if you like, as I started to accept my ADHD and understand where support benefits me, but thrive in what it also gives me, then I was able to pass that on to other people. Because whether you're neurodiverse or not, everybody has had something in their life where they've held themselves back
Yeah.
based on what someone told them that then became their own story. So now I support people to shift that story, create their own story, and take bold action on what's really important to them.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. This is really amazing. And the fact that you didn't allow it to actually get to define you, but you rather thrive on it and instead of allowing the negative thoughts that get to limit you without you taking any actions, you get to see it as fuel towards more like, yeah, going out for what you do. And that was really amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So many people actually feel terrified of public speaking. What practical advice did you give out? Could you give to someone who feel nervous about stepping on stage?
I mean, gosh, we could do a whole workshop on this, but a very easy takeaway, right? Bath. BAF. First of all, let's remember that public speaking is one of the biggest fears. There's a lot of research that says, I'm not sure how they got this research, but that says people are more afraid of public speaking than death. So first of all, I want to tell anyone that's listening that does feel that fear about public speaking, it's normal, right? Whatever normal is. It's something that so many of us experience. And it's because it's not a fear of public speaking, it's a fear of judgment, a fear of making a mistake, a fear of embarrassment, a fear of failure, right? There's so many nuances within that umbrella. So first of all, I would say BAF, right? B, take a long, deep breath. And remind yourself that many people have this fear. It's normal to have, but you can move through it. And just by taking that long, deep breath, already you are calming your parasympathetic nervous system, space in your mind, you're calming your heart. If you're super terrified, keep taking long breaths, right? Long, deep breaths in and out. But then the next part's crucial because the long breaths can help calm you, but now we need to support you in speaking. So breath and then awareness. We kind of spoke about it a moment ago. Most people run a story in their mind. I'm not good at public speaking. It's scary. I can't do that. Oh, there's all these eyeballs on me. And like I said with my earlier story, that becomes what we believe, right? I can't do it. I'm not good. But actually, with love to everybody here, and I had to do this for myself, get over yourself. Because when we're thinking from that mind, bear with me, everyone, don't just stop listening here. When we're thinking from the state of mind that I can't do it, that's what we believe, but also we're making it about us. And if anyone takes anything from this talk about speaking, this is the most powerful tip, not only to support overcoming fear, but also to be impactful as a speaker. If you're scared about yourself, your mind is on you, and it shouldn't be. As a speaker, to be the most impactful speaker, it's about your audience. Everything is, how can I help them? How can I serve them? Why does what I'm about to say add value? Why does it benefit them? How is it going to make a difference? When they walk out of this room or out of this Zoom room, they put their laptop lid down and they've finished hearing me speak, what helps them? And now, breath, awareness, focus. Now we're focusing on our audience. And when we're focusing on how we serve, we cannot be in fear. As amazing as our mind is, fear and faith, fear and service cannot exist at the same time. So come out of your head and into your heart and focus entirely on your audience. That's going to support you to calm yourself, but also be in a state of service rather than a state of fear. Keep doing it, right? You're not going to show up one time and completely cure your fear, but you can help yourself to overcome the fear, to do it, and then do it again, and do it again, and do it again. And as we all know, that is where the real confidence is built.
Wow, amazing. Consistency over time. And yeah, the confidence gets built over time. That very well. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So storytelling is a very powerful part of communication. Why do you believe that stories we tell ourselves and others are so important?
I think there's a nuance within that. So first of all, the stories that we tell ourselves, i.e. the thought patterns that we run in our own mind, determine how we feel and what action we take. So if you are consistently telling yourself a story that does not empower you, does not support you, leaves you shrinking, then it's going to have a direct impact on what you do or don't do and the results you get. Yeah. So your story to yourself is what's going to support you in taking action on what really matters. But in terms of public speaking and your story with the audience, that's your emotional connector. I'm sure many of you have heard that facts tell, stories sell. And I'm not just talking about like selling a product or a service. I'm talking about selling the message as a speaker. If I stood here and just shared or on stage, if I stood on stage and just shared, this is how you overcome the fear of public speaking. You do X, Y, and Z. People are like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's practical information. But oh my God, that's okay for you, Harriet. You rock at this. You're awesome at this. That's easy for you to say. But when I tell them that and the technique to overcome fear, and then I say, I remember when I first started speaking, I was absolutely petrified. I remember standing on that stage and words were coming out of my mouth, but all I could think was, can they see how much my knees are? I was terrified. I was awful. I was rubbish. I did not convey the message, but I did it. And then I did it again. And then I did it again. And then I refined it. And now I speak on stages all over the world, running absolutely incredible, powerful, impactful events. Now I'm not just Harriet, the public speaker. Now I'm Harriet, the, oh my God, she was petrified.
Yeah.
She was frightened. She was scared. And then she did BAF and, of course, some other techniques and strategies. And now she's doing it. So the story is the emotional connector, but it's also the relatability for the
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah. Also the relatability to the audience. And I think it's very lovely being that you just make reference of this and you speak a whole lot of owning, because sometimes people, I think after event, people get to forget every point, every quote that has been said during the course of the program. But except the stories and the analogies being given, being that, yeah, they could both see themselves in those particular stories,
Yeah.
and yeah, they could actually more like
And as you say,
hold
they
it for
remember
long.
it.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. So you speak openly about living with ADHD. How has it shaped your journey as an entrepreneur and as a speaker?
Good question. I haven't actually thought about that. As I said earlier, and I don't mean it in a cliche way, it really is a superpower. Now, don't get me wrong. I need to be aware of certain areas. So when I first kind of started my business, by that time, I was already very good at speaking. I was very good at running events, but I was in a partnership where they took care of the sales, the marketing, like the business side
Yeah,
of the event. And then I showed up, delivered both the events and the program. So when I then had to shift into becoming an entrepreneur and obviously think about all of these areas, suddenly I'm doing all these things that I didn't go into business for and I'm not great at. So doing things like the marketing, doing my taxes and my admin, as for somebody with ADHD that A didn't enjoy that, but B, like my focus, I'm out, I'm gone, I'm somewhere else. It obviously I needed to put systems and structures in place and have some outsourcing that supported that area of the business, which is fundamental and truly important to be able to run. So it's understanding yourself and where you need help and support. But then on the other side, the fire, the impulsivity, the spontaneity. People say to me, like, oh my gosh, Harriet, I can't believe that you just went for that. It wasn't even a thought. I didn't even question it because my ADHD impulsiveness kicks into, I'm going, I'm doing it. And just to say one last thing on that, we also, there is the truth that I do find it more challenging. It doesn't mean I can't, but I find it more challenging, as does everybody, to focus in certain areas. However, if you put me on a stage, if you tell me we're creating an event, I mean, obviously I've got mine very solidified now,
yeah,
but I spend hours hyper fixating, not just concentrating. Like you
yeah,
can't break my focus because I'm so in. So I think for somebody with ADHD that's running a business, you need to know your lane. You need to know what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and what you execute on no matter what, and then run with that. But you also need to know what holds you back. And this isn't just because you've got ADHD, this is every single person, but it's relevant, of course, in this conversation to ADHD. What holds you back? What aren't you as good as? And what support structures and systems can you put in place to help that?
yeah, amazing. What structure you put in place, and yeah, just knowing yourself and know what you can even get to double down on without much a whole lot of things put down. Yeah, amazing. So you actually teach what you call a warrior mindset. What does that mindset look like, and how can it help people overcome fear and self-doubt?
A warrior is somebody that acts with trust, speaks with confidence, and
Mm,
lives from their peaceful power. It is somebody that takes action consistently on what is important to them. It is somebody who understands what fulfills them in life and leans into that. But please make no mistake, it does not mean that everything's amazing and you feel super confident,
yeah,
happy, empowered in every minute of every day. No, 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 no. We may be warriors, but we're human. We're having a human experience. So the difference between like old Harriet and now living this warrior's mindset is in the past, when challenged, when issue, when tough times showed up, Harriet would go to the couch and have a self-pity party with a bag of Doritos for maybe a week, maybe even two, right? But now, when challenge shows up, when tough times show up, I allow the emotions. I'm human. I get angry. I get sad. I get frustrated. I get annoyed. I doubt myself. I question, all the things. But the difference now is I come back to a
Yeah.
calmer place so much faster. I'm not doing the self-pity party. I'm allowing the human emotion and I'm choosing my response. That's a warrior's mindset.
Amazing, amazing. Act with trust, speak with power. Yeah, it's really a whole lot, and you just speak a whole lot. And thank you so much for sharing. Also, you have trained hundreds of speakers around the world. What separates speaker who truly connects with their audience from those who don't?
I think, one of your questions touched on it so brilliantly. Storytelling, the ability to share your story. But I also want to give a caveat here. You can tell a story in a way that your audience gets bored and goes on their phone,
Yeah.
or you can tell a story in a way that they lean in and they want to know every word. So yes, storytelling, but I would add effective storytelling. But I think actually the biggest one is being deeply, deeply present with your audience. That's the biggest difference. Anyone, I'm just trying to find some paper now. I don't know if this is visual or not, but for anyone listening, I'm now pretending I'm standing in front of a lectern, taking notes, right? Anyone can stand in front of an audience and speak. But with people's attention spans, you're gonna lose them. If you just speak for hours, you lose them. We run 3-day, 5-day events and people are in the entire way. Why? Because we're in with them. I'm off the stage. I'm on the stage. I'm with them. I'm answering questions. I'm adapting my content. I'm not going in. I know my message. I know the result they're walking away with. But when I'm with them, well, the story I was going to tell might not be relevant, but now you've just asked me a question about you have a husband that doesn't support you in your speaking journey. I'm going to share a different story to make it more relevant to you,
Yeah.
to help you in this moment. So the most impactful speakers are the ones that adapt and are truly, truly present with the audience they are speaking to. And just one last thing there. We've kind of gone from like, it's one of the biggest fears to how do we make the most impact. So I just want to remind all the listeners here, the first time you speak, you probably won't be the most present,
Yeah.
the most impactful speaker, because you're learning yourself. But as you grow, as you stay consistent, as you speak more, you will refine the skill. You'll forget about yourself and you'll be much more present
Yeah.
with the audience. So like with
Yeah.
anything, it's just an ongoing improvement.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. This has really been amazing now, with a whole lot of insights to do different with your speaking engagement. And to actually more like let out all self doubts and fear. Amazing. So, lastly, for someone listening today who feel they have been holding back from using their voice, what first step will you encourage them to take?
Depending on where they are with that, I would say either reach out to Aro, reach out to me, reach out to an environment or a person that you already feel safe in, and then start practicing speaking. If you're someone that's like, oh, I'm just a little bit nervous, I don't necessarily need like Harriet or Aro or a coach or a specific community. Start practicing in your everyday life. A lot of people think public speaking is just from the stage. But again, for me, the most impactful speakers are the ones who amplify what they do off stage. It's not a polished professional script moment on stage. It's a extension of who you are off stage. So for anyone that wants to practice this skill with love, I would say do exactly that. Start practicing it. Sharing a story when you're out with friends. If you go to dinner, if you go to a network meeting, if you go to a shop, in a conversation, just start practicing speaking and sharing. And even if you walk away sometime going, I wish I hadn't said that. That was embarrassing. Then okay, cool. That's going to happen no matter what,
Yeah.
right? Just start using your everyday life as a training ground. And if you're someone that really wants to start speaking from stages or on platforms, then start by going live. Start by doing a YouTube video. Start by doing a podcast. Come and speak to Aro and get in touch with him. Start by doing a just start putting yourself out there in environments where you get to practice. And that's what's key. I'm going to give a secret here that some people take out of context, but I hope it lands in the right way. I consider every speech practice. Every speech training for me. Now, don't get me wrong. Before I walk on that stage, before I get on camera with Aro, before I go into our event room, it's game time. Like,
Yeah.
that's the Super Bowl. It's the match. I'm in and I'm showing up in my best way possible. But as soon as it's done, it was just another training.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
another.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. This has really been amazing, Harriet. Thank you for the load of insight. So, Harriet, from our audience who would love to reach out to you or connect with you, whether for your, to learn more about speaking engagement, some of your materials, or to reach out to you and connect to you with various media, where is the best platform and how can they reach out?
The best platform is absolutely Facebook. Harriet Bratt, 1 T on Harriet, 2 T's on Bratt, Harriet Bratt, and then my website is harrietbratt.com. But do reach out, do connect. I share a lot of free resources, a lot of content, and if you come into my DMs and ask a question, I'm gonna support you because that's the type of leader that I am.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Harriet. This has really been amazing. But just remind us that our voice has power and the true impact happens when we combine courage, authenticity, and courage and purpose. Yeah, this has really been amazing. And when we step into who we are and share our message boldly, we create the kind of influence and inspire the change we actually want. Yeah, this is really amazing. I thank you for the whole lot of insight you share into this particular episode. Yeah, thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for providing the space for us to be here, but also to support and impact all of your listeners. I hope that everybody's taken some value and insight, and please do reach out and connect.